folks, it's Rex at Harmony Hollow Apiaries. Today we're going to talk about small hive beetles. We'll open up one of my 5-frame nukes behind me and pull out the small hive beetle trays that I've got, and we'll talk about different methods to use to take care of small hive beetles that may be strong in your hives. A lot of new beekeepers see small hive beetles and think that there's just an infestation, and you're going to see small hive beetles in most hives. And the real thing is going to be whether or not your hive has enough population to maintain control of that space. If you've got a queen that's laying a lot of eggs and you've got a lot of bees in there, you can have hundreds of small hive beetles and it not be a problem. However, if your queen is not keeping up the population base in the hive, then even 50 small hive beetles can be a problem. And they'll quickly take over if the bees are not strong enough in population to maintain their space. So again, number one, you need strong bees. The second thing to help with mitigating small hive beetles is having them in the sun. Put your hives in the sun. That way the hive is a little warmer than what it would be in the shade. People worry about whether or not their bees are going to overheat if they're in the sun. Let me tell you something. The bees are masters at the art of airflow. They know what to do. People want to put screen bottom boards on the bottom of their hives. For whatever reasons, they claim that it'll gives them breathing, or gives them airflow. That mites will just fall down and not come back. That's not true. Those mites they'll make it back up into the hive. So that said, my preference is to have solid bottom boards. Those bees, if they're hot, they're going to come out the front and they're going to fan their wings. They're going to make the airflow they need. So maybe a small top entrance also is a help, because it'll help that airflow come down through the hive. So we're going to open up these two nukes here. These are both ones that I requeened yesterday and today. And I noticed that the hive beetle traps inside are full. So we're going to take those hive beetle traps out, open them up, and get them cleaned out and put things back in, put the trays back in. This year, I've seen more small hive beetles in hives than I've ever seen before. I don't know what the environmental factors were, but even in the strongest of hives that kept the small hive beetles at bay, I saw thousands of small hive beetles. So it's in most cases, those were in the shade, where the temperatures were nice enough that the brood buildup was very strong. However, the cooler temperatures in a hive make great environment for small hive beetles to come in and take advantage of the food that's available there from the bees. In all cases, at least here in North Texas, I would say that small hive beetle prevention and at least control, because we're not going to prevent them, but we can mitigate the effects of them by having a population of bees that is just overwhelming and able to maintain their space and to defend their space. Don't give your hive more room than what it can handle. Once a hive has filled out, in the springtime, filled out probably 8 or 9 of your 10-frame boxes, then it would be time to add a second box and move some frames up top. And if your hive has dwindled and your queen's not laying well, and you just don't have the population to maintain the space, you might think about moving the bees back down to a smaller box, either an 8-frame or a 5-frame nuke if they can't maintain the 10-frame box. And I would also look at probably requeening if she can't lay enough eggs that they are going to grow in population. That said, this year I've used several different methods, and I have combined some methods too. I've used these unscented Swiffer sheets. This is generic ones that I get from the dollar store. I'll set these on top of my honey supers. Advantage of these is that the bees do corral the small hive beetles up to the top corners and the bottom corners of your hive, and once the bees start roughing up these edges, the small hive beetles have a hook on the leg that gets caught in this. The disadvantage, however, is that sometimes you do catch some bees, and I've seen some beekeepers report that their queens actually get caught in there and they wind up dying. So that is a risk you take when using the Swiffer sheets. So if you do use them, don't put them directly over the brood area or just under the brood area. I would put them above the honey super. All right, these are the beetle blasters. This is a tray that you can fill with either oil, fill about halfway with oil, or you can fill it about quarter to halfway with diatomaceous earth. I have chosen to use diatomaceous earth because when I do move hives, I don't want the oil sloshing around or having to pull these just to move hives. With diatomaceous earth, it's not going to spill out if you tilt it upwards and sideways and such. If you turn it upside down, it's going to come out. But what I'll do is I'm about to open one of these up with a razor blade, and we're going to dump out the small hive beetles. There's still a few that are crawling around in here, but there's a lot of small hive beetles. This was from a 5-frame nuke that was just overrun with beetles. So when we slice these open with a razor blade, if you're real careful, you'll be able to easily dump out the old DE, diatomaceous earth, and the hive beetles, and then use some cellophane tape over your cut. In fact, I'm going to do this side because there's less propolis and wax buildup. And you can use tape to retape close the tray. Alright, so I've got the wax cleaned off, so I'm going to just very carefully go through and make a slit along the length with a razor blade. Make it low enough that you can cover it with tape afterwards. Let's make sure it went all the way through. Yeah, it did. Okay. So in here we have diatomaceous earth and hive beetles. Oh, that's a lot of hive beetles. All right, it's that easy. Okay. Actually, if you don't cut to the end, this actually stays tight enough that it's okay to use as is, but I am going to put tape over it just because I don't like the idea of the DE getting into the hive itself. Now, take a look at all these hive beetles. This is a lot from a 5-frame nuke over the period of a little less than a month. Got a couple crawling around here. I'm just going to go ahead and squish. Alright, so I'm going to pull this away, and we're going to pull the tray back into our view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe this tray off with a rag, and you can use cellophane tape. I'm going to use actually masking tape. It was the quickest thing I had available. It's just to keep the plastic in place so you don't spill any and it doesn't get into the hive. So I'm just going to do that. Alright, now I'm going to show you how I fill these up. Alright, my DE comes in a bag. You can get it in 1-pound bags or more or less. And so what I do is I take a hive tool over my DE. Oh, it's too tight. Let's move the camera so you can see what I'm doing now. Alright, so my diatomaceous earth is in here. I take the blade of my hive tool and just dip it in there. Don't get too much on there. And I set it on top of this tray. Just kind of sprinkle it along the top of the tray. And then what I do is I kind of smooth it out a little bit. And I'm holding it over the container so I don't get a lot on the table. So I fill up the top of that tray. And then the next thing I do is I give this thing the jitterbug. It's funny, but what it is, I just tap this. It's like tapping down concrete that you've poured or something. So you tap it and it goes through the holes in the top of the tray. And your DE is in there. I'm going to put a little more because I want it to be about a quarter to a half full. Yeah, smooth that off so that we don't spill it all over our table. So it's inside the top of that lip, and just tap, 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 tap. You can do this over the grounds too. You don't want it getting on the body of your bees because the DE, what it does, it's tiny little diatoms that have really sharp bodies. And these were ancient microscopic animals, and they their bodies are it's just very sharp, and so you want about a third to a half full, I would say. And this is ready to be set in the hive. Be sure to wipe off the top of this so that your bees don't get it all over their bodies. Alright, this is a hive that I just requeened today. So I'm going to set this in here. Now that I've pulled the tray, cleaned the tray out. And any future small hive beetles for the year will be corralled into there where they will meet their demise. Put that lid back on. I'm going to swing around here, and I'm going to trade out the tray that's in here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. This hive is not too bad at all as far as population. It's only 3 frames of bees and a feeder. But man, there's lots of hive beetles in these hives. See that? So we're going to put the fresh tray, freshly set up tray there. This hive was also requeened. And we're going to take this tray in and clean it out. In addition to the beetle blaster trays, there's another type of hive that's called the Apiaries, which is fully plastic, and it's got a better resistance value of 7, where wooden hives are about they're less than 1 as far as their ability to insulate a hive. Anyway, these hives have a tray underneath that you can put a layer of diatomaceous earth, and the bees will force these hive beetles down through the bottom of the hive, and they wind up on this DE, and it slices their bodies up. So Apiaries hives are great. They've got feeders built in the top, and they've got hive beetle control built into the bottom. So I'm going to slide that back in there.